One of the most delightful experiences for me was watching the dance class, because Joe Williams did require a class in dancing. This was ballroom dancing, which meant that the basketball players were all dancing with young women who were probably my height, which is 5'4" or 5'5". Artis Gilmore is 7'2". Now, Artis was very graceful, actually, and that's difficult with ballroom dancing with somebody that may not have danced very much. But he was really very graceful, but it was such fun.
Artis Gilmore put us on the map. How many shots did we see of the great Artis Gilmore, the A Train, then known as the Big A, blocking shot after shot? In fact, Artis Gilmore blocking shots is kind of what everybody knew. Well, I was 11 years old.
The feeling everywhere was electric. And I'm speaking not just campus, I'm speaking of the entire city. Well, it wasn't just the entire city. I'd say it probably was most of Florida.
Everybody knew. Well, I was 11 years old at the time. I was an 11-year-old watching JU, and I was an 11-year-old power forward on the Jacksonville Hornets 11-year-old team. About 5'6", 148, bit of a space eater. And I wore number 42 because Pembroke Burroughs wore 42, and if you were an 11-year-old power forward in Jacksonville in 1970, you wore whatever the JU guy wore, and that was Pembroke Burroughs. Mark Cope was our center. Mark was 5'8", 165, and you didn't come into the paint on Mark Cope. Let's be clear about that right now. And Mark wore number 53 because the great Artis Gilmore wore number 53. And everybody wanted to be Artis. And we watched that JU team play, and it really meant everything to us. I can remember the NCAA tournament when JU beat Kentucky 106-100 when Von Wedeking drew the charge on Dan Issel. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember them beating Iowa 104-102 when Pembroke Burroughs had the big shot. I can even remember after that game, JU's players sang the Rooster song that they wrote, and they sang it on national TV with everybody watching. It went, Jacksonville had a rooster, so they put him on a fence. He crowed for the Dolphins because he had good sense. When you're 11 years old, that's called songwriting. We loved it.
Well,
when I was
students, I must say, students had some problems concentrating in classes, because that's particularly during the week preceding and that particular week of the finals.
But I was an 11-year-old, and our basketball team was on the road traveling to play against the Florida Sheriff's Boys Ranch team in Live Oak. So we were in a yellow school bus on the road when that game was being played. Couldn't watch it, couldn't listen to it. So we asked one of the parents who was driving behind us to flash the headlights. 2 flashes for a JU basket, 1 flash for a UCLA basket. Left blinker JU free throw, right blinker UCLA free throw. And we sat in the back of that bus with our notepads, keeping track of who was winning that game, because nothing in the world meant more to me when I was 11 years old than whether or not JU could beat UCLA and win the national championship of college basketball. Now, can you imagine that scene? 10 11-year-old boys in the back of a bus, and nothing in the world mattered more than keeping track of who was winning that game. That's the impact Artis Gilmore, the superstar, had, and that JU basketball team had on our lives as young boys in Jacksonville, Florida.
Having followed his career through all the various basketball ventures he had, having followed his career, I've always noticed there is no change. Artis is Artis. He is a gentleman, and he was taught that by his mom, and that's what he is. And no matter what fame came to him, no matter what anybody did or said, he kept that. But of course, the big inspiration for me was when I did get to go to Massachusetts to be with him when he was enshrined in the Hall of Fame. I always love that word, enshrined, because that's what they were doing, enshrining him. I was so thrilled when he mentioned me in his speech and said that Dr. Kinney is my second mom, and which I think I really am too.